Hi, I am Narsingh Saxena, a scientist turned management consultant and now a scholar of Vedic philosophy. Welcome to my channel, Life and the Vedas. In today's talk session, I will continue further on our topic, Unraveling Life's Mysteries through Vedas. As mentioned earlier, it is explained through 7 articles. Today I am going to talk about the second part of the third article in the series on cosmic consciousness. It delineates how the cosmic consciousness creates the universe out of itself. It is called Origin of the Universe and the Vedic Philosophy. If you are new to the term Veda, these are ancient texts that belong to the classical era of India. They provide a wealth of knowledge about life and explain its various aspects. While talking about the origin of the universe, I will first discuss the most accepted scientific theory about how the universe came into being, and then show you how the philosophy of the Vedas not only outlines a similar theory, but can also provide answers to several questions left unanswered by the scientific theory. How the universe originated has been one of the most baffling questions faced by the human mind, even after collecting the enormous data about the universe using the Hubble telescope and its more advanced successors. Scientists have not been able to generate a foolproof model of the origin of the universe. What comes closest is the scientific theory called the Big Bang Theory. According to the Big Bang Theory, since the universe is expanding continuously, working the process backwards, it may be postulated that there was an initial point of unlimited heat and seemingly infinite density from where the process of formation of the universe started. Scientists call this initial point the singularity, which expanded, not exploded as the name suggests, to produce the entire universe. The process initially produced a small space filled homogeneously with an unknown substance at high temperature and high density, along with an unknown form of energy. This was followed by a very rapid expansion, called inflation. The inflation seems to have been caused by an uneven distribution of energy resulting from some kind of quantum noise that arose when the universe was extremely small. After the event of inflation got over, elementary particles like electrons, protons, etc. were formed out of the initial unknown substance, and they together created a huge cloud. As the temperature of this cloud came down gradually, gases and other denser substances were formed, and eventually the universe came into being after several billion years. Scientists, however, do not know what was there before the Big Bang took place. What was singularity, and where did it come from? What was the initial homogeneous substance? What exactly was the nature of the energy that appeared? What was this quantum sound that caused the event of inflation, and where did it come from? Why did the inflation stop? And above all, how the entire process was controlled. Let me now bring in the Vedic knowledge and try to explain this plausible scenario presented by the Big Bang model. In a nutshell, Vedas maintain that the process of creation was caused and controlled by the cosmic consciousness, or Brahm, commonly spelled as Brahman. And since he is everywhere, the singularity must lie within Brahm himself. Now let us explain the entire process in detail. My explanation is based on what has been covered in Rig Veda, Chandogya Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Svetasvatara Upanishad, and Katha Upanishad. Before the creation of the universe, there was formless, motionless Brahm everywhere. He then desired to be many out of one. Since he loves variety, that means he decided to create the universe by manifesting himself into innumerable forms that we find in the universe, with the help of his infinite power, or Shakti. Vedas call this entire process of creation as his leisure activity, called Lila in Sanskrit. Brahm uses 2 aspects of his cosmic power for this purpose. The first one is his illusory power, called Maya, which projects the universe out of himself, while hiding his underlying presence in everything. The second type of power is called prana, or pranic energy, which is the energy assigned by him to run the universe. It represents the total universal force. Now let us get back to the Vedic account of the origin of the universe. First of all, Brahm, who always stays still, starts manifesting himself into his active form called Mahat with the help of Maya. Mahat, like Brahm, is also transcendental. The only difference is that now his energy is coupled with the superfine transcendental particles generated by him through Maya. With the help of these particles, by using his force, he creates the various transcendental forms. So, whenever Brahm wants to assume a transcendental human form or create a transcendental kingdom, he does it at the level of Mahat, the active form of Brahm. Now, for creating the universe, Mahat transforms itself into two primal entities belonging to the physical universe, marking the transition from transcendental level to the physical level. These are prana, or pranic energy, the energy for creating and running the animate and inanimate universe, and akash, the physical version of superfine transcendental particles of Mahat. These are the smallest building blocks of all universal matter. They permeate the whole universe, including the empty space between heavenly bodies, gases, liquids, and solids. I believe that this is the same initial unknown homogeneous substance which the Big Bang theory is unable to identify and which later gets converted into the elementary particles. I also believe that this superfine matter is the same substance that scientists have labeled as black matter or black energy, and which they have not been able to discover so far. To me, these superfine particles seem to be something similar to the vibrating one-dimensional strings of the proposed string theory of quantum physics, which are considered as the building blocks of the elementary particles. Soon we will be able to know the exact character of the superfine particles of Akash once the ultra-fast technology of quantum computing becomes available to us. To begin with, by executing his thoughts through his immense willpower with the help of his projecting power Maya, Brahm creates a small space in his Hiranyagarbha area, which, as mentioned in the last article on cosmic consciousness, is about 1/4 part of his total existence, in which the entire universe exists, and fills this created space densely with particles of Akash at a very high pressure along with pranic energy in its potential form. This causes darkness all around the created space, and everything appears to be at a standstill since both Akash and prana remain absolutely still at this point. Rig Veda mentions this scenario in Nasadiya Sukta. Brahm then initiates the process of creation of the universe by transforming the potential energy of prana into its kinetic form by his supreme willpower. The kinetic energy of prana starts acting on the particles of Akash incessantly in the newly created space, generating tremendous heat. This is the region which the Big Bang theory calls the singularity. At this point, the transcendental sound vibrations of Om start emanating from Brahm at his will. It is these sound vibrations which the Big Bang theory calls some kind of quantum noise. According to Vedas, the frequencies of these sound vibrations carry the idea forms of all the various entities of the universe like galaxies, stars, planets, hills, oceans, rivers, forests, humans, animals, etc. These idea forms were previously stored in the cosmic consciousness. These sound vibrations distort the energy distribution in the created space, which causes the sudden rapid expansion called inflation in the Big Bang theory. This inflation slows down after all the idea forms are released via the vibrations of Om. These ideas include information about all the inanimate and animate objects belonging to the universe. Particles of Akash then start combining to form bigger particles, which are the elementary particles under the pressure exerted by the pranic force. This produces a massive mass or cloud of the elementary particles such as electrons, protons, neutrons, etc. As the cloud cools down, elementary particles start combining to form atoms and molecules by the action of prana. Gradually, gases, liquids, solids, etc. are formed. At this point, the idea forms of various entities combined with necessary material types and get converted into their actual physical forms by the perfect will of Brahm through his projecting power of Maya. All the galaxies, stars, planets, including the Earth, start forming. Gradually, hills, forests, oceans, rivers, animals, and humans start appearing on Earth when the time is right for each of them. For example, humans appear only when dinosaurs disappear from the Earth, since the two could not coexist. A major dilemma faced by the Big Bang Theory is that after the formation of the universe, its expansion should now slow down. Since the force causing the expansion should be countered by the forces of gravitational pull, exerted by the created heavenly bodies on the expanding galaxies. The astronomical observations, however, don't support this thesis. These observations show that the process of expansion, on the contrary, is accelerating. I believe that the explanation for this dilemma is that according to Vedas, space is not a vacuum. It is permeated by the undetectable superfine particles of Akash, and it is the presence of this substance which counters the gravitational pull on the expanding universe. Vedic literature makes one more assertion that there are several other universes apart from ours. This assertion supports the multiverse model proposed by the scientists, according to which, during the massive push of inflation, different parts of space and time grow at different rates, resulting in multiple universes. Let us now talk about the created universe, which Vedas call nature. It comprises both inanimate and animate entities. Inanimate entities include galaxies, stars and planets, hills, oceans, rivers, and other physical objects, whereas animate entities include vegetation, microorganisms, insects, birds, animals, and humans. The difference between the two, according to the Vedas, is that unlike inanimate entities, animate entities are born, they grow up, and eventually die. Vedas further mention that the bodies of all living entities are inanimate, but they are alive since there is a tiny part of the Supreme Consciousness or Supreme Soul inside their body. This tiny part is called the individual soul. It is the presence of the soul that imparts life and consciousness to the entity and makes it animate. Here one thing is worth noticing, that while according to science, there are 3 states of matter, which are gas, liquid, and solid, Vedas delineate 5 states in which matter actually exists. First of these is Akash itself, the finest particle of matter. The whole universe is made out of it. It fills all the empty space where it has its exclusive presence, and that is why the English translation is Akash or space. Moreover, since all other states of matter, from thinner to denser, are created out of it by the incessant pressure exerted by the force of prana, it is present in all objects belonging to any state of matter. Symbolically, it is like water, while everything else is like blocks of ice made out of it and floating in it. Second element is called vayu, literally meaning air, but it implies anything in a gaseous state. Third state is agni, or fire. It is slightly denser than vayu, and unlike vayu, agni can be seen. It emits heat and light in the gaseous medium. Fourth state is jal or water, meaning anything in a liquid form. Fifth and final state is called prithvi, meaning earth, which simply implies anything solid. Thus, according to Vedas, Pancha Mahabhutas, or 5 tattvas, or elements of nature, namely Akash, space, or the finest particles of matter filling the space, Vayu, gas, Agni, heated gas emitting light, Jal, liquid, and Prithvi, solid, together constitute all physical objects in the universe in various combinations. These elements of nature are not to be confused with the elements of the periodic table. The relation between them is that all the elements of the periodic table are derived from a unique combination of the 5 elements of nature. The intrinsic property of Akash is vibration, which is identified with sound. You can hear it. The intrinsic property of Vayu is touch, but it can carry the sound too. Thus it can be identified with touch and sound. The intrinsic property of Agni is form. You can see it, but it can be touched and heard also. Thus, it can be identified with form, touch, and sound. The intrinsic property of Yal is taste, but it can be seen, touched, and heard also. Thus, it can be identified with taste, form, touch, and sound. Finally, the intrinsic property of Prithvi is smell, but it can also be tasted, seen, touched, and heard. Thus, it can be identified with smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. This shows that Akash is in every form of matter. Vayu is the next state created by the pressure of Prana Shakti on Akash, so it is a little denser and contains Akash as well. Similarly, Agni is the next thicker element and it contains both Vayu and Akash. After Agni, Jal is the next thicker state which contains Agni, Vayu, and Akash. And finally, Prithvi is the thickest element which contains Jal, Agni, Vayu, and Akash at the same time. You may wonder how Jal can have Agni in it. The answer is that the Agni element involves 2 components, heat and light. If a hot object is burning, it has a flame emitting both heat and light. But if a hot object is not burning, the light component is low or 0, depending on whether it is red hot or just hot. It still will have a shape defined by a given surrounding area where the heat can be felt. So the heat or the temperature alone can also denote the Agni element in cases where light is not emitted. Now every liquid has a given temperature which can either be low, high, or the room temperature. However, if they are frozen, their heat content or Agni element is 0. Similarly, you may wonder how the Prithvi element can have Jal in it. The answer here is that solids can normally be melted into liquid form at some temperature. Those solids which don't melt but burn directly can be said to have 0 liquid content or Jal element in them. You may also wonder how the Agni element, having gases and heat, gets converted into Jal element. Don't forget that atoms of hydrogen, H, and oxygen, O, combine to make water, H2O, at a certain temperature. Here, hydrogen and oxygen gases belong to the Vayu element, whereas temperature for their reaction is provided by the Agni element, and the resulting liquid of water belongs to the Jal element. Please note that since bodies of the animate objects are inanimate, there is presence of these elements of nature in a human body as well, as Vedas declare. Like Akash, the force of prana, which is the second of the 2 primal entities, also permeates the entire universe. Just like every material is a manifestation of Akash, every kind of force, whether driving the inanimate universe or animate beings, is a manifestation of prana. At the inanimate level, all 4 major forces of the universe, which are gravitational force, electromagnetic force, weak nuclear force, and strong nuclear force, are its manifestation. Thermal energy, mechanical energy which includes kinetic energy or energy of motion, and potential energy or stored energy, and atmospheric forces which control the movement of air, create weather patterns, regulate climate, are also the manifestations of prana. So are the forces that drive the water cycle of evaporation and precipitation, and forces that are involved in the combustion process, which produces heat and light, like natural fires and volcanic activity. At the animate level, prana pervades all actions and processes within the bodies of humans and other living beings. All the biological processes like breathing, digestion, circulation of blood, flow of nerve currents, and even the regulation of thoughts in the mind are operated by prana. Just like nature has 5 tattvas or elements which combine to make a physical object, nature also has 3 gunas or qualities which define the character of every living and non-living entity. These gunas or qualities are sattva, purity, rajas, action, and tamas, inertia. A person or an object can have a combination of sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic quality to a varying degree. Sattva, or purer form of nature, represents purity, brightness, nobility, and goodness. Rajas denotes active, passionate nature and stands for action, passion, bravery, egoism, and self-centeredness. Tamas is the darker form of nature that represents inaction, laziness, darkness, viciousness, cruelty, dishonesty, and inertia. These qualities impart specific character and behavioral patterns to them. For example, sattva predominates in a noble human being having an intellectual bent of mind and sober nature with social good at heart, representing purity. At the object level, pure drinking water or fresh air has sattva. Rajas is dominant in a very dynamic and passionate person, selfish but good at heart. At the object level, a ray of sun has predominance of rajas, since it moves from the sun to reach you and gives you warmth. Tamas dominates in a shady character like a thief, leading a vicious, dark, and sedentary life. At the object level, a stone by the roadside is predominantly tamasic, since it has inertia and can hurt you if you stumble on it. Now, after knowing about the origin and nature of the universe, you may wonder, when Brahm is indivisible, how can he get divided into so many parts? The answer to the question, according to Vedas, is that Brahm, in reality, does not get divided into parts. Due to his illusory power, Maya, although he is one, he appears as many in the form of innumerable individual souls, as well as the entire matter in the inanimate nature. Thus, Brahm actually remains one, but appears divided and diverse as the universe due to Maya. It also shows that, in the ultimate analysis, the mind, which is a part of our bounded soul, and matter are not different from each other. They are just different manifestations of the same entity, which is Brahm. Mind is at the finest level, while the matter is at the grossest level. That's all for today. In my next article, I will be talking about the law of karma. Thanks for listening.